Okay, everyone, it's 2 o'clock. This is Professor Terry Clark, and welcome to our go-to training. Today, we're going to be reviewing for the final exam. One of the things I did is I went ahead and I pulled up the final exam, practice exam, that is, which can be found in the FSO platform under the Resources tab. Okay, and I'm going to go through every one of these questions. Now, the questions here in the practice exam are very similar to the questions on the final exam. So if you can understand everything that I'm talking about on this practice exam, you're going to make 100 on the final exam. Okay, with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. The first question that we're going to be working with is finding the slope of the line graph below. Okay, and the slope is going to consist of two things. It's going to consist of x and it's going to consist of y. So we're trying to figure out what are the changes in x over what are the changes in y. Okay, I'm going to take the points straight from the graph. Okay, so I've got 4 here. Okay, I got 1 here. I got -3 over here. And I got a 1 here. I'll put that about right there. Okay, and so the first one's going to be here at -3 and 1. And the second one's going to be at 1 and 4. Okay, I'll go ahead and put the ordered pairs in. They're an ordered pair, so it's important that x comes first. You can just put them in any order you want to. X has to come first. Okay, so that's important. And then we got 1 and 4 here. And I'm going to go ahead and connect the links. Oh, great. That turned out well. Okay, I think everybody gets the point. I can't draw. Okay, so what I'm going to do to find the slope is I'm simply going to trace over from the bottom here. I'm just going to count how many spaces from -3 to 1. And you can literally count each tick. From -3 to -2 is 1. From -2 to -1 is 2. From -1 to 0 is 3. And from 0 to 1 makes 4. So there are 4 units that we had to move to the right to get to right underneath the second point. Okay. Now the next point we're going to go up. Okay, and so if we're at 1 and we go up to 4, we can see that that's 3 units. Okay, and so our slope is going to be 3 over 4. Okay, so that's what our slope is going to be. Y will be an increase of 3. X will be an increase of 4. So we simply just go from one dot to the next dot or point. Okay, now Asa, if you're saying you can't hear, you may want to turn off your computer and turn it back on, or you may want to check your volume. Okay, so those are 2 things you can do: check your volume or turn your computer, or sign out of the system and then sign back on. Okay, and I'm going to put that in if you can't hear. Check volume. And if that doesn't work, sign off and sign back on. All right, so there we go. All right, so that's question number 1. All right, we'll clear the screen for that one. And then we're going to move to question number 2. Okay, question number 2 says the perimeter of a rectangular painting is 360 centimeters. If the length of the painting is 96 centimeters, what is the width? All right, so that's a formula we got to use. So we're going to say the perimeter of a rectangle equals 2L plus 2W. So that is the formula. Now we've been given some stuff already. We've been given the perimeter is 360. We've also been told the length is 96 centimeters. So if the length is 96, so we'll just put in 96 for L. And now we simply got to solve for W. Okay, so here we go. We got 360. And 2 times 96 will give us 2 times 6 is 12. Carry the 1, 2 times 9 is 18, plus the 1 we carried is 19. Okay, plus 2W. Okay. From here, we'll subtract 192 from both sides. And what we're really trying to do is just get, we could plug it. When I say plug it, we can say, okay, 2 times what plus 192 will equal 360. So we could start off with 100 and we could say 2 times 100 is 200. And 200 plus 192 is 392, so that's too big. So then we could scale it back to maybe 90. 2 times 90 is 180, and 180 plus 192 is 372, so that's still too big. And so then we could scale it down to 80, and we could say 80 times 2 is 160. And 160 plus 192 is 252, so it's going to be a little bit bigger than 80 when we finish. And then we could just keep doing that. We could just go in between 80 and 90 till we found the exact number. Okay. But, using an algorithm, that's some algebra process to solve an equation, will get us there a lot faster and it will be more direct. Okay, so we're going to say we'll borrow 1 from the 6 and that'll give us 10. 10 minus 2 is 8. We'll borrow 1 from the 3 and that'll give us 15 because we already borrowed 1 from the 6. And that'll give us 15, that'll give us 6. And then the 1 that we borrowed from the 2 left us with 1 here. So that's 168 equals 2W. Then we divide both sides by 2 to get rid of the 2. And finally, W equals 84. Because 84 times 2 is 168. Okay, and we knew it was going to be in between 80 and 90 because we kind of just plugged the answer, okay, through trial and error. But this is the way you solve this problem. Okay, use the formula first. Okay, there's a formula sheet in FSO as well. The platform actually is right around the same place you find this practice test. Okay, and it's going to tell us that P equals 2L plus 2W for the perimeter of a rectangle. Okay, and then from there we'll just simply plug in all the numbers that we know and solve for the unknown number, unknown variable, unknown letter, which is W in this case. Okay, so that's how you solve this particular problem here. Does anybody have a question about how I solved this one? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the next one. Let me clear the screen off first. Okay, so here we go. It says on November the 1st, Nancy Anderson's checking account had $4,591.05 balance. During the following week, she had the following transactions. She had $1,273.50 cash deposited. She had checks of 370, check number 376 of $245.57 on November 3rd. She had check number 377 to Cypress Grocery for $289.31 on November the 4th. Fill in Nancy's checkbook with each transaction. Be sure to update the balance after each transaction. Okay, so here we go. All right, in order to do that, the first thing we're going to do is, let's see, I'm going to start off with probably, you can call them deposits, okay, or debits, one at the other. And then the other one could be, I'm sorry, deposits or credits. So deposits and credits are going to be the same thing. Because everybody knows what it means when they say they're going to credit your account. It's getting something back. And then the other one can be a debit or withdrawal. Debit or withdrawal. I'm just going to say W for withdrawal. And then the last thing we're going to have is a balance. I mean, you'll have dates too. Okay, so on the first, which I'm going to put that there, you just had the balance of 4,591.05. Okay, so we put that in. And then we have a deposit of 1273.50 on the second. So on the second, there's a 1273.50. Okay, now that 1273.50 gets added to the balance because it increases your balance. So we'll take the 4,591.05, and then we're going to add the 1273.50 to it. That's going to give us a new balance of 5,864.55. And then we got the third. And that's going to give us 245.57 check. So it's going to be 245.57 check. And so that gets subtracted off because it's taking money out of the account. And then that brings us back down to 5,618.98. Okay. And then we got a transaction on the 4th, which was another check for $289.31. And then that gets subtracted off as well. 2, 9, 5, 29. 67. Okay, so at the end of all the transactions, Nancy's new balance, we'll go ahead and put a line here so we can see how these transactions actually went down. Okay, and of course that's your deposits and that's your debits or withdrawals. Okay, so at the end, and then of course your dates on it. Nancy's new balance is $5,329.67. Okay, and basically this is just a practice in filling out a checkbook. Okay, we're just adding and subtracting transactions. Okay. Okay, so let's look at the next problem. Okay, the next problem says the yearbook club had a meeting. The meeting had 30 people, which is 5/6 of the club. How many people are in the club? Okay, so that problem can be set up as an equation. So we've got 5, 6, okay, equals 5/6 of the people equals the 30 people that were there. Okay, and the word 5/6 of means to multiply. The word of means to multiply. I can't underline these things, but you can see it right there where it says 5/6 of the club means 5/6 times the club. Okay, and the club, of course, is how many people are in the club. So it's going to be 5/6 times the club. All right, so from there, we'll go ahead and we'll do the math. Okay, so from here, I don't know how I got that color, but I'm going to change it back to. We're going to solve this by, you can do it in 2 steps if you want to, but typically we just do it in 1 step. We take and multiply the reciprocal, which is the fraction turned upside down in both ways. Like that. Okay. Now, the way I'm going to solve this problem is I'm going to cross cancel. I'm not really, multiplying then turn around and divide. Because cross cancel is a shortcut. So I'm going to say 30 divided by 5 is 6. And of course, here's cross out the 6 there, cross out the 5 there, and I'm just left with x. And now on the other side, it's just 6 times 6, which is 36. Okay, so there's 36 people in the club. Okay, there's 36 people in the club. Okay, this is an equation problem. Typically on these types of problems, I'll ask you if you have any questions. Some people might have questions about the setup or the cross canceling or the reciprocal. So does anybody have any questions on this one? Okay. The key is just knowing that 5/6 of the club means 5/6 times the club. And the club is 30 people that are in the club. Well, not 30 people in the club, but we don't know how many people are in the club because that's why they're asking it. So it's 5/6 times some unknown number. In this case, that unknown number is going to be x. So it's going to be 5/6 times x. And that's going to equal the 30 people that were at the meeting. Okay, problem number 5. The following list gives the number of siblings for each of 14 students. Find the mode of the data set. Now the word mode is the number that occurs the most. So what we're going to do is we're going to look and see what we can find. Okay, there's 4 zeros. So zeros in the running for the mode. There are 4 ones, 2 there, 1 there. That makes 4. And then there's 4 threes. Okay. So you've got 3 modes here. We've got 0, 1, and 4. Did I say 4? I meant 3. Okay, so we've got 3 modes. We've got 0, 1, and 3. So there are 3 modes. Okay, now the modes are like the number that occurs the most. The median is the number that's in the middle. And the mean is the arithmetic average. Okay, so we're going to clean that up. I won't ask about that one because it's kind of self-explanatory. And of course, I'm recording this go-to training. So, I'm going to send a copy of the recording to everybody so you can always go back and listen to it a bazillion times if you want to. Okay, here we go. An aquarium tank can hold 7,700 liters of water. There are 2 pipes that can be used to fill the tank. The first pipe alone can fill the tank in 44 minutes. The second pipe can fill the tank in 77 minutes by itself. When both pipes are working together, how long does it take them to fill the tank? Okay, this is sort of like a DTR problem. DTR is like distance equals time times the rate. Except instead of talking about distance here, we're talking about volume. So it's going to be a VTR problem. The volume equals the time times the rate. Okay, so that's the way it gets figured out. Okay, well, the first thing we got to do is figure out the rate, okay, of the first pipe and then the rate of the second pipe. Okay, and so the rate can be figured out by, in this case, because we're talking about minutes, how many, how much water can each pump, how many liters of water can each pump out in a minute? So that's what we're going to be looking at. So I'm just going to set up a table here. I'm going to say the first pump. I'm not going to even call it first pump. I'm just going to say first to save time. I know that means first pump because all I got is pumps here. And then I got second. Okay, and that stands for the second pump. Okay, so to figure out how much water each one can pump out in a minute, I'm going to see, okay, I know that the first pump can pump out all 7,700 liters in 44 minutes. Okay, now to figure out how much per minute, per means to divide. So I'm going to take 7,700 and divide it by 44 minutes. And then that will give me the rate of the first pump. Yeah, and then to find the rate of the second pump, I'm going to say 7,700 divided by 77 minutes. And then that'll give me the rate of the second pump. And the rate is minutes, volume per minute versus miles per hour, volume per minute in this case. Now, I suppose you could look at it at volume per hour if you wanted to go through all that extra work. But because they've already given me the time measurement of minutes, that's what I'm going to use. Because I don't feel like doing any additional conversions. So that's going to be 175 liters per minute. So instead of MPH, it's going to be LPM. Okay, and then for the next one, we're going to take 7,700 divided by 77, and that's going to be 100. Okay, so we got the rates. The time we don't know because that's why they're asking us. They're saying how long will it take? So we don't know. But we do know that the time is in minutes. So we got, okay, so we're going to say 175 liters multiplied by the minutes for the first one, plus, because they're working at the same time, so the word plus means to add two things together. We're adding pump one and pump two together to pump out the water. 100 meters, 100 liters per minute times the minutes, and then that's going to tell us what the total we already know is 7,700. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so we've got the rate and the time. Now this is the volume of the first one. This is the volume of the second one, and the two volumes together equal the total volume. So we're going to say TV here. Now, how do we know that this is the volume of the first one? Because the volume equals the time times the rate. Okay, and we got the time and the rate. We now know that the time is m because it's minutes, but we don't know how many minutes there are. And we got the rate. We know that's 175. Now we know that when we multiply the time and the rate together, we'll come up with the volume. Okay. Okay, so now this is an algebra problem. So now I got 175 m plus 100 m. That's going to be 275 m. And then that's going to equal 7,700. From here, I'll divide 275 from both sides just to get the m by itself. Now, I could do like I did before. I could plug that. I could say, okay, 275 times, say, 40, or 275 times 30, and see if that'll equal the 7,700. But it's just easier to back into it by just dividing the 7,700 by 275. Okay, and then that'll tell me how many minutes we're talking about here when they're working together. Now I already know how long it'll take for the first one to do the 7,700. That's going to be 44 minutes because they gave that to me. I know how long it'll take for the second one to do it. That'll be 77 minutes. I want to know what they can do together. So that's why I had to combine them together to figure that out. Okay, so it's going to be 28 minutes. So in this case, it's going to equal 28 minutes. Okay, so when they're working together, they can pump all that water out in 28 minutes. Okay, and that if they're working together, they should be able to do it faster than either one of them can do it separately. Okay, so that answer would make sense. There's no way in the world I would come up with an answer that was above 44 minutes because that's what the fastest one is doing it all by itself. So if you add another one to it, it should be able to do it in faster than 44 minutes. So 28 minutes is a good answer. Okay. Once again, this is, even though it's a VTR, the volume equals the time times the rate, is similar to the DTR problem. The distance equals the time times the rate. Okay. And you'll notice that in math a lot too. Sometimes you don't have to learn something brand new. We can take something we already know and use it to solve a problem with. All right. Does anybody have a question about this one? Okay. You may have to look at this one a few times to get a good understanding of it. I would suggest you definitely take notes on it, write it down, look at the practice problem, just go through it, make sure. I mean, this is going to be the type of problem that you're probably going to have to see a few times. to get comfortable with it and the steps. Notice how I use labels. Okay, see right here, I put in first, and then I put in second. Then I took all the information that I knew about the first one. I'll put that in a different color. Let's put that in magenta. Okay. I'll put the information that I knew about the first one. Uh, it could pump out 7,700 liters in 44 minutes. And then I put the information in I knew about the second one. It could pump out 7,700 liters in 77 minutes. And then I use that information to find the rate, how fast it could pump out, how fast it could pump out liters in 1 minute. It could pump out 175 liters in 1 minute for the first one, and 100 liters in 1 minute for the second one. Okay. And now once I got the rates are something that they're like unit rates. You can combine those two things together. Okay. Because it's like denominators, they are alike. All right, so that's gonna wrap up that one. Go back and look at the recording on this one. Okay, probably have to see it a few times before you get used to it. All right, so let's look at the next problem. The following are distant miles traveled to workplace by 21 employees of a certain university. Okay, they're wanting you to draw the histogram for these data using initial class boundaries of 0.5 and ending class boundaries of 45.5. Okay, and 5 classes of equal width. Okay, note that you can add or remove classes from the figure. Label each classes with its endpoints. Okay, all right, so here we go. First thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to figure out what the class width is. Okay, so we'll take the 45.5, and then we're going to subtract the 0.5 from it. That is 0.5, yep. Then we're going to divide that by 5, because that's going to tell us how many. That's going to tell us how many classes we have. Okay, we got 5 classes. It's going to tell us what class width is. Okay, so that's going to be 45. And then we're going to divide 5. Okay, so that's going to be, we're going to have 5 classes, and they're going to have class widths of 9. Okay, so we got 0.5 here, and I'm just going to add 9 to it. 9.5, 18.5, 27.5, 36.5. Let's give me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's 5 classes. And then that'll just go to 9.5 here. And that'll go to 18.5. On this part, I'm just cheating on the back end. I'm looking at the number, the beginning of the next class to know that it's 18.5. And then I'm going to look at the beginning of the next class to know this is 27.5. And then the next one I'm going to know is 36.5. 0.5. On the last one, I can't cheat because I don't have another class, but I can add 9 to it. Okay, and that's going to give me 45.5. Okay, so let's see. You can add a new classes with this endpoint. Label each class. Okay, so there we go. All right, so there we go. All right, so from here, we're just going to go ahead and figure out which numbers go between for each number. I'm just going to put a tally as I come across it. Okay, let me move this over a little bit. Slide this over a little bit. Like that. Okay, there we go. Do I got all the numbers? I can see everything. Okay, let's see. All right, there we go. Okay, so the number 7 is in between 0.5 and 9.5, so I'm going to put one tally mark there for that number. The number 2 is also in between 0.5 and 9.5, so I'm going to put a tally mark there for that as well. 37 is in between 36.5 and 45.5. 32 is in between 27.5 and 36.5. 27 is in between 18.5 and 27.5. 22 is in between 18.5 and 27.5. 16 is in between 9.5 and 18.5. 11 is in between 9.5 and 18.5. 6 is in between 0.5 and 9.5. 1 is in between 0.5 and 9.5. 36 is in between 27.5 and 36.5. 31 is in between 27.5 and 36.5. 25 is in between 18.5 and 27.5. 20 is in between 18.5 and 27.5. 15 is in between 9.5 and 18.5. 34 is in between 27.5 and 36.5. We got another 34. Okay, we got a 29, which is in between the 27.5 and the 36.5. We got another 29. Okay, then we got a 24, which is between 18.5 and 27.5. Then we got another 24. Okay, and let's see, that's all of our numbers there. Okay, so now we just get to count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4 tallies for the first one. Okay, 3 tallies for the next one. 6 tallies. 7 tallies. And then 1 tally. Okay, so those are all our numbers right there. Okay. Okay, now the thing it tells us to do, it says label each class with its endpoints. Okay, and it says endpoints and not midpoints. Now, if it was to say midpoints, we would have to find the middle of the 0.5 and the 9.5. And we could do that by adding 9.5 and 0.5 together, and then that would give us 10. And if we added up, let's do it this way, we added up 9.5 and 0.5, which we don't have to do this because they didn't say use the midpoint. They said use the endpoint. Like that, that would give us 10. And then, of course, 10 divided by 2 would equal 5. Okay, so that would be the midpoint. The midpoint would be 5. And then if we wanted to get to our next midpoint, we would just add 9 to it, because all of every initial, every beginning, every Initial boundary, ending boundary, and midpoint all have the same class width of 9. So the next one will be 14 here. Then we would have 23. Then we would have 32. And then finally we would have 41. Okay, so everything has a difference of 9. All right, but they didn't ask us to do that. They asked us to use the endpoints. Okay, so we got our frequencies on the side. That's the table. 1, 3, put 6 here. I'm just using the ones that are on the chart that I can see that are definitely here, and that's the ones I'm going to be using. Okay, now they said a histogram. So a histogram is going to be, it's going to be 9.5, 18.5, 27.5. Okay, I'll just do these 3. Okay, so the first one's going to go all the way up to 4. That's what a 9.5 is going to go to 4. And that'll be there. And the 18.5 is going to go up to 3. We can see that there. Okay. Now with histograms, you want to make sure they're touching. Okay, because bar graphs and histograms are totally different. A histogram, it deals with continuous or interval data. Okay, which means that each bar touches. You know, there's no space in between. And then the 27.5 goes up to 6. Okay, that says 6 because there's a 6 there. And then, of course, we could do the other ones if we had the space for them. Okay, but that's the way it's going to look. We'll put our arrows on the side, and then that the frequency is on the left, and then the bottom is where we got, you know, our labels. Okay, so that's it for 7. Does anybody have any questions about that one?
I can't listen.
Yes? Okay. Just make sure you read it carefully. If it says the word midpoint, then you need to find those middle points like I showed you by adding the initial and the ending boundary for each class together and dividing it by 2. Okay, if it says midpoint, then you'll need to find the midpoint. All right, let's look at 8. 8 is gonna be a probability problem. Actually, it's gonna be an odds in favor of, but odds are also about probability as well. Okay, so it's a bag with 9 marbles is shown below. 4 marbles are white, 1 is gray, and 4 are black. A marble is chosen from the bag at random. What are the odds in favor of choosing a white marble? Okay, so what we got to do is we got to find the probability of a white marble, and then we got to find the probability of not a white marble. Okay, so the white marble is 4 out of 9. So that's favorable. Okay, that's what we're looking for. When we say favorable, we're talking about what we're looking for. Now, the unfavorable is what we're not looking for, what we don't want. We don't want anything that's not a white marble. So that's going to be 5 of them are going to be unfavorable. Okay, that's going to be 1 gray and 4 black. And of course, if you add these 2 together, they'll equal 1. Okay. The probability that an event will occur will always be 1. A probability can only be between 0 and 1. 0 meaning it will never occur. 1 means that it will always occur. So when we add these together, we should have the total probability of all events. From here, we said that our odds are favorable is going to be the odds are favorable. We'll say odds in favor. It's going to be the probability of favorable. Odds in favor. And so it's going to equal the probability of favorable. And this is the notation of how we say probability of favorable over the probability of unfavorable. Okay. Okay, so the probability of favorable is going to be 4/9. And the probability of unfavorable is going to be 5/9. Okay. Now, this is a division problem, so what we'll do is we'll keep the 4/9. We'll change the big fraction bar in the middle to a multiplication sign, and then we'll flip the other one. It'll become 9/5. Then we'll cross cancel our way out here and here, and we'll end up with 4/5 or 4/5. So what we mean is that the odds in favor are 4/5. Another way of writing that is with a colon in the middle, like that, 4/5. Okay. And another thing, if we look at patterns and observe patterns in the problem, what we'll notice is that the favorable is the numerator in the probability of favorable, and it's compared to the unfavorable. And so we can also see right here that's 4 there, and right here is 5, 4/5. Okay, so you can pull it like that as well. Okay, um, but it's important to know the math behind it. Okay, okay, and so it's 4/5. Does anybody have any questions about this one? What am I? What's colors go? Okay, any questions about this one right here? No, yes, good. Okay, just remember the formula when we're talking about favorable. It's going to be the probability of favorable over the probability of unfavorable. Now, if we wanted to know what the odds against, it would be 5/4, because the odds against are the probability of unfavorable over the probability of favorable. So it would just be the opposite of the 4/5. It would be 5/4. Okay. All right. So here we got another problem. It says an ordinary fair die is a cube, okay, with the numbers 1 through 6 on the side represented by painted spots. Imagine that such a die is rolled twice in succession, and that the face value of the two rows are added together. This sum is recorded as the outcome of a single trial of random experiments. Compute the probability of each of the following events. Okay, so now what we have to do is figure out, okay, what would make up a sum that is greater than 5. Okay, now there are going to be a lot of different ones that are going to be greater than 5. What I'm going to figure out is, what will be 5 or less, and then I'll subtract that from 1, and then that'll tell me what the probability of 5 or greater is. Because it's going to be the two added together have to equal 1. Okay, so let's say I'm going to clean this screen up first. No fair. All right, I can go back to the client. Okay, so let's see. Now I know I can roll a 1 and a 1. Okay, and then that's going to equal 2. I can roll a 1 and a 2. That'll equal 3. I can roll a 1 and a 3. That'll equal 4. My event says that the sum is greater than 5. So I can use 5 because that's not greater than 5. That's equal to 5. Okay, that's going to equal 5. Okay, then I'm going to go with 2 next. Okay, so I can roll a 2 and a 1, which is different than a 1 and a 2. That'll be 3. I can roll a 2 and a 2. That'll be 4. I can roll a 2 and a 3. That'll be 5. And then I can roll a 3 and 1, and that'll be 4. I can roll a 3 and a 2. That'll be 5. And then I can roll a 4 and a 1. And that'll be 5 as well. And that's it. Okay. Now, for the ones, they're going to be a 1 and a 1, 1 and a 2, 1 and a 3, 1 and 4, 1 and 5, and 1 and 6. Okay, so 1 is going to have 6 outcomes. When I throw a 2, it's going to have 6 outcomes. When I throw a 3, it's going to have 6 outcomes. When I throw a 4 first, it's going to have 6 outcomes. When I throw a 5 first, it's going to have 6 outcomes. And when I throw a 6 first, it's going to have 6 outcomes. So the first event can occur 6 ways. The second event can occur 6 ways. So the total amount of ways that I can come up with an event is going to be 6 times 6. And that's going to be 36. Okay, that's called a multiplication rule. Okay, the multiplication rule basically states that if you can find the events that if you can find the ways the first event can occur, and then you can find the ways that the second event can occur, if you multiply them together, it'll tell you the total ways that the events can occur together. Okay, so if you got 5 shirts and 8 pants, and you want to know how many different outfits you can put together with 5 shirts and 8 pants, if you take 5 and multiply it by 8, that would be 40 different outfits you can put together with the 5 shirts and 8 pants, because the first event is 5 shirts, which can occur 5 ways, and the second event is the 8 pants, which can occur 8 ways. So 5 times 8 is going to give you 40. Okay, well in this case, it's that first die has 6 ways on it. Second time you throw it, it's got 6 ways still. So 6 times 6 is 36. Now, I got to figure out what my probability was getting a 5 or less. So I can just count them up. 1, 2, let me change the color on it. Okay, I just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so I've got 10 out of 36 for 5 or less. Okay, but I'm not looking for 5 or less. I'm looking for 5 or more. So if 10 of them out of the 36 are 5 or less, then the rest have to be more than 5. Okay, so the way I can do that is I can say, okay, well, I'm going to take 36 over 36 because that's everything. And then I'm going to subtract 10 over 6 from it. And then that's going to give me 26 out of 36. And then I can simplify that down by dividing both of these by 2. And I'm just simplifying it now. After all, they are fractions. And so when I do that, that's going to give me 13 over 18. Okay, so the probability of doing more than 5, it didn't say 5 or more, it just said more than 5. For the sum to be greater than 5, it's going to be 13 out of 18. Okay, so the next one is the sum is not divisible by 2. Okay, well, you can guess what I'm getting ready to do with this one. I'm getting ready to find all the ones where the sum is divisible by 2. Okay, and so for the sum to be divisible by 2, that means it's got to be 6 or 12. Okay, because the highest number you can get is 12, because 6 plus 6 is 12. Okay, so let's see. What I'm looking for in this case is numbers that are 6 and 12. All right, so I can do 1 and 5 equals 6. Okay, and that's going to be it for that one. 2 and 4 will equal 6. Or that's 2 plus 4 is 6. And 3 and 3 will equal 6. 4 and 2 will equal 6, which is different than 2 and 4. And 5 and 1 will equal 6. And then 6 and 6 will equal 12. Okay, so now I just count them up. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so 6 numbers out of the 36 can be divided by 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1, and 12 divided by 6 is 2. All the other numbers can't be divided by 6 and create whole numbers. Okay, so there's 6 that can. So to figure out what can't, once again, I'm going to take the total of 36. Take the total of 36. Okay, so I'm going to take the total of 36. Okay. And then I'm going to subtract the 6 from it, and then that'll tell me what's left over. So that's going to be 30 out of 36. I'm going to divide these by 6. And that's going to leave you with 5 over 6. Okay, so the probability that it is not divisible by 6 is going to be 5 out of 6. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about this one? Let me move this out of the way so we can see the whole thing. Okay, any questions on the probability here? Okay. Another thing that you can remember, there's just a little formula that we use to work with these types of problems. Okay, let's go with it. Okay, so The probability of not an event, I'm just going to put N for not an event here, is going to be 1 minus the probability of the event. Okay, so we wanted to find the probability that it will not rain. We just simply look at the probability that it will rain. Let's say we say it's going to be 75%. I don't know what I was doing there. It's going to be 75%. So the probability it's going to rain is going to be 75%. Okay, so the probability that it will not rain will be 1 minus 0.75, which would be 0.25, or 25%. So the probability that it won't rain will be 25%. If the probability that it will rain will be 75%. The two have to add together to equal 100. And so that 1 is really 100%. Okay, so that's how I was working at solving these problems. Sometimes it's better to figure out what something isn't as opposed to what it is. Okay, sometimes it's less counting involved in it. You know, like say for instance, if you had to figure out how many days you worked a year, it might be easier to figure out how many days you have off, which are like the weekends, and then subtract that from 365, and then that'll tell you how many days you actually have to work, you know, minus the holidays. Okay, so that's that. That's a heavy dose of probability there. Okay, so now we got to evaluate some expressions. Okay, the first one, let me see if I can shrink this a little bit, because that page is pretty long there on the back side. And we'll pull this over some more like that. Okay, so our first one's going to be 4 squared over 5. Okay, always when you're solving these kind of problems, always remember the order of operations. Okay, order of operations says the exponent gets done first. 4 squared is going to be 16, and then that's just going to be 16 over 5. And it says write each expression, write each response as an integer or fraction. So that's a fraction right there. So 16 over 5 is a fraction. You wouldn't go dividing it and making it a decimal because it didn't ask us to do that. So that answer is done, even though it looks real simple because it is. All right, our next one, negative 1/4 squared. Now what that means is that there are 2 of these negative 1/4s. So that means there's going to be negative. The parentheses means that everything stay together. That's a grouping symbol. Negative 1/4 times negative 1/4. But double negatives when you're multiplying is going to give you a positive outcome. So we just simply go 1 times 1 is 1, and 4 times 4 is 16. Okay, now the reason why that answer is positive because whenever time you multiply 2 negatives together, your answer is positive. The second one is going to be a little different. Okay, uh, because it's not inside of parentheses, we're simply going to go, it's going to be 6 times 6, like that, because it's not inside the parentheses. And then that'll end up being just negative 36. If it doesn't have parentheses around it, your answer is going to be negative. Okay, does anyone have any questions about number 10? Okay, if not, let's move on to 11. Okay, 11 says classify the four angles of the quadrilateral. Okay, so the first one's going to be angle A. Angle A is going to be a right angle, and it's right because it's 90 degrees. An angle that is right is exactly 90 degrees. Angle B is going to be an acute angle, and it's acute because it's less than 90 degrees. Okay. Angle C is going to be an obtuse angle, and it's obtuse because it is greater than 90 degrees. And angle D is going to be a right angle as well, and it is right because it is exactly 90 degrees. Okay, does anyone have any questions about number 11? Number 12 requires math. Simplify your answer as much as possible. They're wanting us to solve for W. So what we're going to do is we're going to take negative 24, and that equals negative 6 plus 3W. Now from here, we're going to add 6 to both sides. Okay, so we're going to add 6 to both sides. And the reason why we're adding 6 is to get rid of the negative 6. Okay, because what we're trying to do here is we're trying to get rid of all of this. Okay, because we just want the W by itself. That's what we're trying to do. Okay, so when we do that, that's going to give us negative 18. Okay, and watch out for adding positives and negatives together. Because when you're adding positive and negatives, you really end up subtracting. And then that's going to give you 3W. And then the last thing we got to do to get rid of the 3 is we're going to multiply. I'm sorry, we're not going to multiply, we're going to divide. I take that back. And the reason why we're dividing is because the 3 is multiplying. So we're simply doing the opposite of the multiplication of 3, which is the division of 3. So I had part of it right, just not the right part. And so finally, that's our answer right there. W equals negative 6. Okay. Now, one of the things that we can do is verify it. We can take this problem again, and we can put in negative 6. And if it really does equal negative 6, the left side and the right side, when we're finished with the math, will have the same value, which is negative 24. The reason why I know it's negative 24 because the left side doesn't have any math to it. It's already negative 24, so it's not going anywhere. We got negative 6 here plus 3 times negative 6. Okay, negative 24. Now we're going to do the math. Okay, so 3 times negative 6 is going to be negative 18. And then when we finish up here, negative 6 plus negative 18 is negative 24. Okay, so the left side and the right side equal the same thing, which is negative 24, when W equals negative 6. So we verified and made sure that that answer was correct. Does anyone have any questions about number 12? All right, number 13. A rose garden is formed by joining a rectangle and a semicircle as shown below. The rectangle is 33 feet long and 22 feet wide. Find the area of the garden. Use the value 3.14 for pi and do not round your answer. Be sure to include the correct units. Okay, so the units in this case are always going to be square feet because this is area. All right, so we've got to find two areas. Okay, we've got to find, we got to find the area for a semicircle, which is this part right here. This is a semicircle right here. So we got to find the area for that. And then we got to find the area for a rectangle, which is right in here. Okay. Well, we already know what the rectangle is. It's going to be 22 times 33. Because it's just the length times the width for a rectangle. So we already know what that's going to be. So let's go to it. 22 times 33. It's going to be 726. And that's going to be square feet. And then just put a little square on the top of it. So we got that part of it. Now, the semicircle is going to be, you can't use the whole 22 because the formula is pi r squared. The 22 is not because the 22 is right here. That's the diameter. That's the whole thing. We're just looking for the radius, which is half of that. So the radius is going to be 11. It's going to be 11 squared times 3.14. Now, the order of operations says that we ought to do the squaring first. Okay, so that has to be done first. Can't get around that one. It's going to be 121. And then we're going to multiply that times 3.14. So here we go. 3.14 times 121. That's going to be equal to 376.8 square feet. Okay. Now, the garden consists of the semicircle and the rectangle. Okay, but the formula we just used was the formula for a circle. Okay, so to get a semicircle, we got to cut that in half. So we're going to take the 376.8 square feet divided by 2. And then that number is going to get added to the rectangle. Okay. Okay. And the reason why we divided in 2 is because we cut the circle into 2 pieces. So we got 726 plus 188.4. That's going to equal 914.4 square feet. Now make sure you put the square feet, because if you don't put the square feet, the whole thing's wrong. Because the problem says make sure you use the correct units of measurement. Okay, you can't just put 914.4. It'll get marked wrong for that. Okay, so basically what we did is we found the area of a circle, we cut it in half, and then we added that to the area of the rectangle. And the two together equals the area of the garden, because the garden is made up of a semicircle and a rectangle. You're saying it's 3 point, let me see. Let's see, we got 121 times 3.14. Yeah, you're right. I don't know how I came up with that answer. 11 times, okay, times 3.14. My calculator's not that good then. I plugged it into the calculator, so. Okay, so we're going to have to go back and make some corrections. Yeah, actually I'm using an iPhone. 9.94 here. Okay, so we take the 379.94 and divide it by 2. That gives us 189. Yeah, TI 89s are good. So we got 189, now 0.97. Okay, so we take the 189.97, add that to the 726, and we come up with, we'll take that out, 915.97. Okay, and the square feet are still there. Okay, so let's double check this. Okay, so we've got 22 times 33 equals 726 square feet. We've got 3.14, okay, times 121 equals 379.94. We cut the 379.94 in half. We come up with 189.97. We take the 189.97, add it to 726, and then that equals 915.97 square feet. All right, thank you, Sarah, for catching that for me. All right, okay, and so we gotta be careful with that calculator too. Okay, probably data entry, probably punched in the wrong key. Okay, so does anyone have any questions about that one we just did with finding the area of the rose garden? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the next one. And the next problem is going to be simplifying an expression. Okay, so we'll roll the expression up here. Okay, let's look at it. Okay, so we've got -4. Well, I got to get a darker color because that color's not going to work. Okay, here we go. -4, 3w minus x minus 2 times 2x plus 2w. Okay, to solve this problem, we're going to use the distributive property. So that means we're going to distribute the -4 to everything on the inside of the first one. And then we're going to distribute the -2 to everything on the inside of the second one. So it's going to be -4 times 3w, which will give us -12w. I'm going to make a better w on this one. And then -4 times -1x is going to give us +4x. Okay. Now, there's really a 1 here. Okay. We don't always show the 1, but it's there. All right, for the second one, -2 times 2x is going to give us -4x. And -2 times 2w is going to give us -4w. Just like that. Okay, now we'll combine the ones that can be combined. So we're going to take -12w, and that's going to get combined with -4w. And then we're going to take +4x. And then that's going to be a -4x here. Okay. These two right here are going to come up, they're going to shake out pretty quickly. Okay. Negative 12 minus 4 will give us negative 8w. 4x minus 4x will give us 0x, which ends up being 0. So our final answer is just going to be negative 8w. Okay. So we got negative 12w. Yep, you're correct. It is negative 16. Yeah, because it's negative 12 minus 4. So it should be negative 16, not negative 8. Okay. Okay, so it's negative 12. Let me clear up that a little bit there. Ooh, let's go right here. Okay. Okay, if I can get a brush to it. Okay, that's better. Okay, yep, that should be negative 16. I gotta be a little careful there. Okay, so that should be negative 16 W. And the final answer is gonna be negative 16 W. All right, thank you. Okay, does anyone have any additional questions about this one? Okay, if not, let's look at 15. The 6 students in Mr. Brooks' class were asked how many minutes it takes them to get to school in the morning. Here's what they answered: 15, 3, 16, 3, 12, and 7. Find the median and mean travel time for these students. If necessary, round your answer to the nearest tenths. Okay, so to find the median, we're going to have to put the numbers in order. So we've got 3, 3, 7, 12, 15, and 16. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 numbers. The median is going to be found between these two numbers right here, between 7 and 12. So to find the median in this case, because we don't have an odd amount of numbers, so it's not going to be one number in the middle, it's going to be two. We're going to take those two numbers, add them together, and then divide them by 2. Okay, so that's going to be 19 divided by 2. And then that's going to equal 9.5. So that's going to be our median. So I'm just going to call it MD. That's going to be our median. Now to find the mean, we've got to add these numbers up and divide it by the amount of numbers. So that's going to be to find the mean. We're going to take 3 plus 3 plus 7 plus 12 plus 15 plus 16. And then we're going to divide that by 6 because there's 6 numbers there. All right, so we'll throw that in the calculator and see what we come up with. Like I said, so we got 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 7 plus 12 plus 15 plus 16. That's going to give us 45 divided by 6. 45 divided by 6. Okay, that didn't come out right. 45 divided by 6 is going to be 7.5. Okay, so we're going to double check this one too. All right, so I pull that over some and we're going to say, okay, 3 plus 3 plus 7 plus 12. 3 plus 3 plus 7 plus 12 plus 15 plus 16. Yeah, I think the adding's wrong on this. For some reason, 3 plus 3 plus 7 plus 12 plus 15 plus 16. Yeah, it's supposed to be 56 here, 56. And then we're going to divide that by 6. These iPhones are not good for calculating. I don't like the calculator on here. It's going to be 9.33. So that's actually closer to the median. All right, so there we go. Moral of the story is get yourself, and I think they said round it to the nearest tenth, so the answer is 9.3. But the moral of this story is don't use an iPhone as a calculator. Get yourself a scientific calculator or a basic calculator. Okay, so that's 56 divided by 6, and that's going to be 9.3. Okay, so, and the mean and the median should be close to each other if there's not really, really extreme values. Okay, so in this case, the median is going to be 9.5, and the mean is going to be 9.3. All right, here's another problem, number 16. This is a word problem. Says a motorboat takes 5 hours to travel 150 miles going upstream. The return trip takes 3 hours going downstream. What is the rate of the boat in still water and what is the rate of the current? Okay, so what we got to do is we got to figure out, we got two speeds. And it's going to be a DTR problem too. Okay, so we got a DTR problem where we've got the rate of the boat. I'm going to say the rate of the boat is going to equal X. And the rate of the current is going to equal Y. Okay, now this is going to be a DTR problem. So it's going to be the distance, and I'm going to put the formula back up here in a second. It's going to be the distance equals the timing rate. Okay. All right. So it says that a motorboat takes 5 hours to travel 150 miles upstream. Okay. And then it says the return trip takes 3 hours downstream. What is the rate of the boat? And what is the rate of the current? Okay. So to figure this out, what we're going to have is we're going to have the distance is going to be 150 miles. That's what the D is going to equal. I'm going to put D up here. And that's going to equal the timing rate. The time is going to be 5 hours. And the rate is going to be, if it's going upstream, we can add the two speeds together, because if it's going upstream, the speed of the boat is actually being increased by the speed of the current. And we got the same 150 miles that we're coming back. Oh no, upstream means it's fighting against the current. So that one's going to be a minus y. So yeah, that's not going to be a plus y, because that's upstream means it's fighting the current. And then the other one's going to be 3 hours. And if it's going downstream, then that means that the current actually increasing the speed. So that'll be plus y. Okay. All right, so there we go. We got it. Okay, so the distance for both is going to be 150 miles. If it's going 5 hours upstream, that means it's fighting the current. So the current's taken away from the speed of the boat. So that's going to be x minus y. For it going downstream, okay, that's going to be 3 hours. And the current is actually going to be increasing the speed of the boat. Because anything that goes, like if you got a bicycle and you're going downhill, you don't actually have to paddle it. The downhill or the downstream makes the bicycle go faster. So you can add that to the speed. So if you're going 0 miles, then if the downhill is going to carry you 10 miles, you'll actually go 10 miles per hour without doing anything. If you're going 20 miles per hour, then an additional 10 hours, 10 miles per hour will give you 30. Okay, so it's 20 plus 30. All right, so here we go. So we've got both here. So this is going to really be a system of linear equations. Let me see if I can blow this up. That's as good as that'll go. Okay, so here what we can do is um, we're going to need to shorten these some. So what we'll do is we'll divide both of these by 5. Okay, and I'm going to divide both of these by 3 on both sides. Okay, so when I do that, I'm going to divide this side by 5 too. And I'm going to divide this side by 3 as well. Okay, now what am I, by dividing both sides by 5, I'm finding an equivalent equation for the first one, and then by dividing both sides by 3, I'm finding an equivalent equation for the second one. So I'm really not changing the equations any. Okay, I'm just making them simpler, much like what you would do with fractions. Okay, when you would divide both sides by the same thing. Okay, so I'm going to end up with 30 equals x minus y. And then I'm going to end up with um, here 50 equals x plus y. Okay, now at this point, there's systems of linear equations. I've got, 30 equals x minus y, and I've got 30 equals x plus y. So I can use the addition method to eliminate one of the variables. So in this case, the variable I'm going to eliminate, all right, I think I got this right. I'm going to eliminate the negative y and the plus y. Okay, and I'm going to do that by adding them together. So I'm going to add both equations together. The 30 plus 50 will give me 80. And then the x plus x will give me 2x. And of course, the negative y and the positive y cancel out. So I'm going to take that and bring that over here to 2x equals 80. I'll divide both sides by 2. X will equal 40. Okay, now what is 40? Okay, well, at the beginning I said that x equaled the boat, the speed of the boat. So 40 is the speed of the boat. Okay, so that's what the 40 is, the speed of the boat. I still got to figure out what the speed of the current is. Now I can take that 40 and plug it back into this equation right here. The 30 equals x minus y, or I can plug it into the one underneath it. The 50 equals x plus y. Either one, I'm going to come up with the same answer. So it's going to 40 minus 10 is 30. So y is going to equal 10. Or I could say 40 plus 10 is 50. So y will equal 10. Okay, so the speed of the boat is going to be 40, what did we say? 40, what is that? 40 miles per hour. And the speed of the wind, or it's not the wind, but it's the current in this case. The speed of the current is 10 miles per hour. Okay, so we got 40 miles per hour and we got 10 miles per hour. Okay, now, um, if we were to actually put that back into our original problem, where we said 150, and then we're going to say 5 times, we'll do the first one. That's 40 minus 10, 40 for the speed of the boat, and 10 for the speed of the current. So that's going to give us 150. It's going to be 5 times 30. 40 minus 10 is 30. Okay. And so that's going to be 150. Okay. And then I'm going to do the other one as well. Okay, because it's got to meet both conditions, not just the first one. 150 equals 3 hours times 40 plus 10 150 3 times 50 equals 150 as well. Okay, so that equals 150 as well. Okay, so at 3 hours times 50 miles per hour, you're going to get 150 as well. Okay, so what we use is we use two math tools. We use DTR, distance equals time times rate formula. And then we use systems of linear equations. We use the addition method of elimination to solve the two equations combined together to form a system. Okay, does anyone have a question about this one? Okay. Um, the problem that you're going to see on your test, problem 16, is going to be just like this one. So make sure you hold on to this problem much like you hold on to the volume, the swimming pool problem with the pumps. All right, so we're going to move along because we're running out of time, and I'm starting to feel the pressure of that. Okay, number 17 is a graph. Okay, now 17 can be graphed. I'm going to create a table on the side just so you can see what I'm going to do here. Okay, this equation is written in slope-intercept form. So I've already got my y-intercept. So let me put the equation on the side here, negative 5x. Negative 5x plus 4. Okay, so the reason why it's called slope-intercept because it gives you the slope and it gives you the y-intercept. Okay, so I'm going to circle the slope and the y-intercept so we can see that. Okay, the slope is going to be negative 5. It's given right here at the beginning of the equation. The y-intercept is going to be 0, 4, positive 4. It's given at the end of the equation. So that's why it's called slope-intercept. form, because the form literally gives you the slope and the y-intercept. So the name of the form is after what it is giving you. It's giving you the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is going to be 0 and 4. Okay. Now the slope in this case is going to be negative 5 over 1. Any whole number can be written as a fraction by simply putting it over 1. Okay. So what we're meaning is that x is going to go up by 1 and y is going to go down by 5. So that's going to be negative 1 there. Okay. So that's it. X will go up by 1 and y will go down by 5. Like that, negative 6. Okay, so our first point is going to be right here at 0 and 4. And then, of course, our next one's going to be down at negative 1 and 1 over here. We'll put that 1 there like that. So we're going to put that point there. And then I'm going to see if I can connect the dots without messing it up. Like that. And then, of course, this is 0 and 4 from my table. Okay, which comes from right here. And then this is 1 and negative 1. Like that. Okay, I'm going to use a different color here so you can see. I'm going to use something different than that color. I don't even want to use that color. All right, green. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so you can see the down move of 5 here. And then the move of 1 here. Okay, and then that down of 5 and that 1 to the right, okay, is this right here, the slope. Okay. Okay, so you can see it actually going down by 5 and then moving over by 1 to reach that next point. I mean, we can keep doing that. We could go down another 5 units like that, and then go over another 1 unit like that to reach our next point. Okay, so that's the slope. But the form of the graph is called slope-intercept form because it's giving you your slope, which is negative 5 over 1, the change in y over the change in x, and it's giving you the y-intercept, which is 0 and 4. Okay, so net 18, I don't think we're going to finish these today, but we're going to do as many as we can. 18, a rose garden is designed by joining a rectangle and a semicircle as shown below. The rectangle is 30 feet long and 20 feet wide. The garden wants to build a fence around the garden. How many feet of fence are required? Okay, be sure to include the correct units in your answer. Okay, so for this one, we're talking about perimeter. So we simply got to find the perimeter of the rectangle and the circle. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do this just like that. Put my dotted line here. Now, the 20 feet on this side is going to be the same 20 feet here. Okay, then of course we'll have 30 here. Okay, so if there's 30 there, there's going to be 30 here as well. Okay, now what we're going to need for the perimeter is the outside stuff. So we only need this stuff right here. I don't know how that came in earlier than what it did. So we only need that. So for the rectangle part, we need the 30, 20, and the 30 added together. So for the perimeter for the rectangle, it's going to be 30, 30, 60 plus 20 more makes 80. So we're just going to add up all 3 sides. So that's going to be 30 plus 30 plus 30 plus 20. That's going to equal 80. And that's the perimeter for the rectangle. The circumference, which is the boundary or the outside of the circle, has we can use two formulas. We can use 2 pi r, we can use 2 pi r, or we can use pi d. So pi is 3.14, and d in this case is 20. Okay, and so let's say that's going to give us, I'm not going to use the calculator, 8 to 6. Okay, and so that's going to be 62.80. Okay, but now that's going to have to get cut in half in any event. So we got 4 times 2 is 8, 2 times 1 is 2, and 3 times 2 is 6. Okay, we got two numbers behind the decimal, and we'll divide that by 2. And once again, I'm not using the calculator because 31, I feel I can do it faster and better. All right, so 62.8 divided by 2 is going to give me 31.4. Okay, now I'm going to take the 31.4 and the 80 and add them together because I need the circumference and the rectangle added together. So I'm going to take 80 plus 31.40. And that's going to give me, and I'm not using the calculator on this one either. All right, so that's going to be it. 8 plus 3 is 11, 0 plus 1 is 1, and then 0.4 plus 0 is 0.4. All right, so that's your answer right there. It's going to be 111.4 feet. Okay. All right, is there any questions about this one? This one is a little different than the other one we did where we were figuring out the area. Okay, this one is figuring out the perimeter. Okay, so here's another one. We need to find the circumference and the area, okay, for this circle. Okay, now in order to find the circumference, we've got the radius, so we're gonna have to double the radius on this one. Okay, so that's gonna give us 9 times 2 is gonna give us 18. So we're gonna say the circumference is gonna be 9 times 2, 9 times 2 times 3.14. Okay. 9 times 2 is 18. It'd be nice if they said we could leave that in pi form, but they don't. All right, I'm gonna use the calculator on this one, but you guys come behind me and check this. Okay, make sure this thing works out well. Next time I do a meeting, I'll bring another calculator with me. 18 times 3.14. I'm coming up 56.52. I'm gonna check it again. 18 times 3.14. 56 point. All right, so here we go. All right, so here's the circumference. 56.5. Is this what you guys came up with too when you multiply these together? 56.52 times cm. Okay, so that's one. All right, to find the area, it's gonna be uh, pi r squared. So we're going to take 3.14. We're going to multiply that times 9 squared. And it's 9 squared because the radius is 9. Okay. Which is different than the diameter. Diameter is twice the radius. So it's going to be 9 times 9 is 81. 1 times 3.14. Okay, so I'm showing up with 254.34. I'm going to double check this again just to make sure. Okay, so 9 squared was 81. 9 times 9 was 81. And then we took 81, multiplied it by 3.14. And that came up with 254.34 centimeters squared. Okay, make sure you put a square centimeter there. All right, is when you guys put that in your calculator, is that what you guys came up with? Okay, great. Okay, so yeah, make sure on the circumference that it's just centimeters, and on the area it is square centimeters. All right, so let's see. For 20, they're wanting us to draw a histogram again. They have the intervals at the bottom for us. 20 is going to be done much like 7 was, except we don't have to find our intervals. Okay, all we have to do is just tally up the frequencies. We just got to figure out how many go between 71 and 75. We can look at that one right quick and see there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 are going to go between 71 and 75. So we just look on the left and put the frequency for 71 to 75 there. All right, so I'm going to try to do 21 and 22, and I think we're going to almost be out of time here after 23. Okay, a box is filled with 6 blue cards, 6 brown cards, and 3 green cards. A card is chosen at random from the box. What is the probability that the card is not brown? Write your answer in fraction form. Okay, so first of all, we got to figure out is how many cards there are all together. So let's see. There are 6, 6, and 3, so there are 15 cards altogether. 6 blue, 6 brown makes 12, plus 3 more makes 15 for the green. Okay, so we got 15 cards total. Okay, now we're wanting to know what's not brown. Okay, so that's going to be pretty easy. It's going to be the blue ones and the green ones. So the blue and the green, we'll add that together, 6 and 3. And then that'll be 9 over 15. 9 over 15 can be simplified down to 3/5. Okay, and we just simply divide the 9 by 3, and we divide the 15 by 3. Right here. Then we do the same thing here. Okay. Okay, and so that's simplest form right there. All right. Number 22, we'll probably get about 20, we'll get up to 23 easy for sure. All right, it says solve the inequality for negative 23 is greater than or equal to negative 3y plus 22. So we got negative 23 greater than equal to negative 3y plus 22. Okay. So to solve this problem, we're going to solve it just like we solve uh, equations. So we're going to subtract 22 from both sides. Okay, what we're trying to do is get rid of the negative 3 times and the addition of 22. So we do that by doing the opposite. All right, negative 23 minus 22 is going to be negative 45. And that's going to equal negative 3y here. Okay, now when we divide both sides by negative 3, it's going to bring us across a rule that we need to know. And that rule states that anytime you divide both sides by a negative number or multiply both sides by a negative number, it causes your inequality sign to reverse. So what's going to happen is the sign is going to reverse here, simply because we divided both sides by a negative 3. All right, let's change the color back. I want to use a different color here to denote that. Okay, negative 45 divided by negative 3 will give me a positive 15. Like that, and that'll give me y. Okay, like that. Now, yeah, so that's going to be your answer. 15 is less than or equal to y. Okay, notice how the inequality sign reversed. Okay, it reversed because we divided both sides by negative 3. So just be mindful of that. If inequalities and equations are solved the same way, okay, except for that one rule. If you got to divide or multiply both sides by a negative, it will cause the inequality to reverse. Okay, the equal sign can't reverse because it's symmetrical. If you turn it right or left, it's still going to be the same thing. All right, so here we go. Got the 23, and then that's gonna be, I think I'm gonna try to do one of the fractions, and then I'll call it a day because we get up to, yeah, I'm gonna try to do that one. That's a lot there. Okay, so we got up to, well, we're getting a nice chunk of it done. All right, so here we go. In the following problem, markup is based on cost. Compute the dollar makeup and the selling price. All right, so the first thing we got to do is figure out what the dollar markup is. If it's 22% of $63, let's clear the board. So that's going to be 63. Now we can do this two ways, but the fastest way to do it is to multiply it by 1.22. Okay, the 22% plus 1 is added to it. Okay, so if it was 27%, it would be 1.27. If it was 38%, it would be 1.38. Okay, and that allows us to add the 63 to the percentage markup, so we can do all that at once. Okay, and that's going to give us the selling price. Okay, not the physical markup. If we wanted the actual markup itself, that's going to be 63 times 0.22. So we'll do both because we need both anyway. So we've got, and let's see, 63 times 0.22. Okay, so the markup is 1386. And the selling price, 63 times 1.22, is 76.86. Okay. Now, if we took the $63 and added the 1386 to it, we would find we would come back up with the selling price of 76.86 as well. Okay, so you could just go 63 times 0.22, and then that answer would be 13.86. And then you take the 13.86 and added it to the 63, and that would give you 76.86 as well. All right, our time is up, but I'm going to do one more problem. I'm going to do the mixed number problem, okay? And then that's going to, that'll get you almost half, because there's only 6 more left. Okay, so let's look at this. Okay, so we got 6 2/3. And minus 4 3/4. Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to convert these to improper fractions. I'm going to do a trick called round the world. I'm going to go 6 times that, and then I'm going to add the 2 to it. So I'm just going to go around the world like this. Okay, so 6 times 3 is 18, plus 2 is 20 over 3. 4 times, I'll put a times table there so you can see what I'm saying, plus here. That's why we call it around the world. Okay, so here we go. 4 times 4 is 16, plus 3 makes 19. And that's going to be 19 over 4 like that. Okay, 3 is a prime number. So what I'll do is I'll multiply this by 4 and this by 4. When they're prime numbers, when there's a prime number involved, you can take the prime number and the composite, you can take the two numbers and multiply them together to come up with your least common denominator. Okay, like that. And then the math is going to be cut and dry here. So 20 times 4 is 80. 3 times 4 is 12. 19 times 3 is 57. And 4 times 3 is 12. Okay, now remember when you're adding and subtracting fractions, the bottoms got to be the same. So that's what we're working with here, is we're working with making the bottoms the same. Here we'll do our subtraction here. That's going to be 23 over 12. Okay, from there we can take 23 divided by 12, we'll come up with 2. No, we won't come up with 2. We'll come up with 1. Because 2 times 12 is 24. So we'll come up with 1. And we'll have, take out the 12 and we'll have 11 left over. So our final answer will be 1 11/12. Okay, and that's because we could do it one or two ways. The quickest way of doing it is just take the 12 out of the 23 like this. That gives us 1, 12 like that. Okay, and there's your remainder, and there's your whole number. All right, guys, it is 4:05. My voice is literally wore out, and unfortunately, I got a bad back, and so that's wore out too. That's pretty much the bulk of the test. Okay. If you have any additional questions about any of the particular problems and you may want to talk to me about them, I'm going to give you guys my email address. You can follow up there with me. Okay. I'll make this session available tonight. So, because it's going to take a while for it to upload. Okay. Because I spent the whole 2 hours talking. Okay, so here's my email if you got any questions about the other 6 problems that are available. Okay, um, so that's gonna wrap it up. It's 4:05, so we're gonna close out um, the session. You know what? Let's do this. Let me see where we're at. I mean, where are we at now? We're on. Okay, let's do this. Let's skip 25 and let's do 26. I'm anal, which that's my math personality. I can't help it. I follow rules. Sometimes I follow rules to my own detriment. Let's go ahead and see if we can finish out these problems because there's not that many of them. We're going to see if we can get me out of my comfort zone. Get me to do something different here. All right, so here's what 26 looks like. And if you guys can't stick around, I'll just finish up because it's being recorded anyway. Okay, so you can just come back to the recording uh, at some time in the future. All right, we're gonna get me out of my comfort zone. Okay, so 26 says to evaluate the expression a equals 5 and y equals -3. Okay, so here we go. Um, let's just make sure. All we're gonna do is take out the a and put in a 5. We're not gonna mess with the negative. It's gonna stay there. Okay, we're just removing the letter in that, and that's it. And we're gonna do the same thing for the y. Take it out, put in a -3, and then we're gonna do the math. The order of operations says that we have to do the 6 times -3 first, and then we'll do the -5 here. And then -5 plus -18 will give us -23. Okay, so that's 26. All right, so 27, the price of a notebook was $3.75 yesterday. Today the price fell to $3.50. Find the percentage of the decrease. Round your answer to the nearest tenth of a percent. Okay, so the percentage of the decrease. Okay, the way that works is we've got to figure out what the decrease is before we can find the percentage of the decrease. So we're going to take 375, subtract 350 from it, then divide that from the original cost. Okay, so the decrease is 25 cents. I want to know what percentage of that, of the original cost was it? All right, so back to our calculator or my iPhone in my case. Okay, so it's got 0.25 divided by 3.75. Okay, so, and then it says round to the nearest tenth of a percent. So the nearest tenth of a percent, that's going to come out to, I'm going to put the original number first, is 0.66, like that, and it's saying round to the nearest tenth of a percent. So the tenth is right here. So that's going to get rounded to, okay, so we're going to move that 2 places to the right, and then that's going to become 6.67% when we move it 2 places to the right. And then a tenth of that will be this one right here. So it's going to be 6.7%. Okay. Okay, so that's going to be 6 and 7 tenths of a percent when we're finished. So that 25%, when we divided it by 375, gave us 0.0667. We moved the decimal two places to the right. That gave us 6.67%. And then we rounded it to that 10th place, which is the first place value after the decimal, and that gave us 6.7%. Okay, the figure below shows a rectangle field. Use the calculator to find the area and perimeter of the field. Make sure to include the correct units. Optimum word, units. Okay, so we got to find the area and the perimeter, or state which one is this. It says Jenny will walk around the field. Which measure will be used in finding how long it would take? Okay, so if she's going to walk around the field, not inside the field, but around the field, that's going to be the perimeter, because the perimeter covers the outside. Okay, and that's where she's walking around, on the outside of the field. Okay, so to figure that out, you can do that one of two ways. You can add up all four sides, or you can use the perimeter formula, which is going to be 2L plus 2W. Okay, so that's going to give us this 2 times 73. Okay, and I'm going to throw that in my trusty calculator. Okay, and let's see, plus 2 times 27. Okay, so that's going to be P equals 146, and 2 times 27 is going to be 54. I was going to throw it in the calculator, but I'm kind of gun shy now. And that's going to be P equals 6 and 4 is 10, 5 and 4 is 9, carry the 1 makes another 10. And then so we're basically looking at, wow, 200. Okay, and so that's going to be 200 yards. Okay. Okay, once again, we went 2 times 27 is 54. 2 times 73 is 146. We added the 146 and the 54 together and came up with 200 yards for the perimeter. Okay. Okay, now the next question says the field will be covered in artificial turf. Which measure would be used in finding the amount of turf needed? So the turf is going to be in the field, so that's going to be the area, because the area covers inside. All right, so to find that, we're going to use the area formula, which is going to be A equals L times W. And in this case, L is 73 times 27. Now, finding this number is important, but it's not going to, it'll take you halfway to getting the answer right. Okay. What it's going to take to fully get this answer right is to have the right units of measurement. Okay, so that's what one of the things that we got to be aware of. So 73 times 27. Okay. 27 times 73 is 1,971 square yards. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so notice I put that square yards there because it's area. Okay, with the perimeter, I just put the word yard there. So make sure you put the right unit of measurement, because it will get marked wrong if that's not there. Yay, we're at 29. Okay, an item is priced regularly at $35. Frank bought it on discount for 20% off the regular price. How much did Frank pay? Okay, so we can do that. We can do this problem um, one of two ways. The first way we can say is, okay, 35 times 20%. And notice I'm converting the percent to a decimal because you can't do math with percentages. Okay, we can, unless we're comparing percentages to percentages, you have to convert them to decimals. Okay, so here we're gonna say that's gonna be $7. Okay, so that's what the discount was, $7. So we'll take 35 and we'll minus 7, and then that'll give you 28 bucks. So that's what Frank paid for it. Now another way of doing this problem is we can say, well, instead of figuring out the discount, we can figure out exactly what it was that Frank ended up buying them for, which is like he paid 80%. Even though he got 20% off, he paid 80%. So we're going to say 35 times 0.8, because that's what he paid. They took the 20% off, so Frank only paid 80%. So that's like 35 times 0.8, and then that'll give you 28 as well. So I mean, you could do it either way. Okay, you can go 20% times 35, and that'll give you 7, and then you can subtract the 7 from the 35. But if you notice the math, you're subtracting either way. You know, just you're subtracting whole numbers, you know, when you take off the 20%, when you subtract the two percentages, the 100% minus the 20%, and you're subtracting 20% from 100% because the total is 100%. The total of anything is always 100%. And so the discount is the 20% you're taking away from the 100%. Okay, and that's giving you 80%. And then 80% is what he's really paying. Okay, so 35 times 80% will give him 28. Okay, oh, we got more of these. All right, for 30, with 30, we're going to use some exponent rules to solve this problem. Okay, probably the better way of doing it, we'll expand the problem and then we'll cross cancel out of it. Okay, so x to the 4th power is really 4x's. It's really x times x times x. And z to the 6th power is really 6z's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we got 5x's at the bottom. 2. And what we're going to do is we're going to cancel out. We're going to take 1 for 1. 1. Now another way we can solve this problem is we could just subtract the powers from each other. You know, for the z's, 6 minus 6 is 0. That means we got 0 z's. And for the x's, 4 minus 5 is negative 1. So that means it's x to the negative 1 power. Okay, so we take 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. For the z's, we do the same thing. Z, 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 z. And so we're not left with any z's left. So in the end, we're left with just 1 over x. Okay. Okay. When you're dealing with division and multiplication, never put a 0. Okay, because 0 will make the whole thing 0. and it's not 0, there's 1x left. Okay, and you definitely never want to put 0 at the bottom because division by 0 is not allowed in arithmetic or algebra. Okay, so that's 30. Okay, 31. In the following problem, given a sales amount and a tax rate, calculate the sales tax amount. If necessary, round your answer to the nearest cent. Okay, so we're going to take 181, and they want to know the sales tax amount. Okay, so it's going to be times 0.07. And so that'll be 181. Well, I'm just going to go 181 times 7. Sales, given a sales amount, and tax rate, calculate the sales tax amount. Okay, so it's going to be 7. Oh, I think they're talking about the total amount here. Well, let's go 7 here. 7 times 8 is going to be 56. 7 times 1 is 7 plus the 5 makes 12. Okay. So it's going to be 1267 for the sales tax. And then we can add these two together to figure out what the sales tax amount. So this is the sales tax right here. Yeah, I'm not sure if the sales tax amount is the actual sales taxable amount of the sale, or if that's the total. But I'm going to go ahead and give you both of them. Then I'll. Okay, so we'll take the 181 and we're going to add the 1267 to it. Okay, so when we add these two together, that'll give us a total amount that you'll pay out the sales tax of 193.67. You know, but let's do this right here for a second because I think these answers are down here. 31. 31. Yeah, it's 12. So that's the sales tax amount they were talking about. Yeah, so it's 1267. Okay. Okay, 32. The circle graph shows the annual budget for a company is divided by departments. Use the graph to answer the question below. Which percent gets approximately 1/4 of the annual budget? Okay, so when you look at that, if you look at the annual budget, you can see that it's split right along the lines of sales and support on one side, and then research and engineering on the other side. You can see it's literally half there. So sales is going to be 25%. Okay, and I'm just looking at the line that's kind of like halfway between them. Let's see, I can't cut it, but it's right where the sales, editorial, media, and support are all on one side, and then the research and the engineering is on the other side. So you can see that's the halfway mark. So the one that's kind of splitting up one of the halfway marks is the sales. Okay, and then of course the supports, media, and editorial is 25% together, but the sales by itself is 25%. Okay, approximately what percentage of the budget goes to editorial and sales combined? Okay, I'm going to say that's going to be 30%. Can't be 10% because the sales is 25%. Can't be 50% because the sales, editorial, media, and support together equal 50%. And it definitely can't be 70% because the sales and editorial is on the side where that entire side is combined for 50%. So the sales and editorial together have to be 30%. 33 is going to be easy. Find the y-intercept of the line whose graph equation is. The problem is written in slope-intercept form. Okay, so we say it's written in slope-intercept form. The problem itself is giving you the y-intercept. Okay, and so we've got plus 9 over 2. Okay, so the y-intercept can be found right here. Okay, so the y-intercept is going to be 0 and 9 over 2. Okay, that's your y. That's the ordered pair that forms your y-intercept. Okay. Okay, so that's going to be 0 and 9 over 2. Now, it may just ask for 9 over 2. Okay, it may just say y equals 9 over 2 or y-intercept equals 9 over 2. But what we can do just to, well, why did it shrink it out? Okay, okay. What we can do is we'll look at how they answer, what form they want the answer in. Okay, yeah, they just say 9 over 2 right there for 33. Okay. One of the things that I would suggest you do is make sure you look at the form that the answer should be written in, because we could also put it as the ordered pair of 9 over 2. Okay, but the computer also lets you know that. Okay, 34 is going to say negative 7 raised to the 0 power. Anything raised to the 0 power is going to be 1. So negative 7 raised to the 0 power equals 1. Now our next problem got a little bit more work to do to it. 2 times 2/5 raised to the 0 power. Okay, we're going to do the order of operation in this problem. That means the multiplication will be done last. The exponent gets done first, according to please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So what we're going to do is we're going to say that's going to become 2 times 1. 2 to the 5th power, 2 to the 5th raised to the 0 power is going to be 1. And then 2 times 1 will be 2. Okay, so that's going to be 34. And as we cross the marathon with the last problem, number 35, cancel. Okay, that's another evaluating expression. We've got negative c plus 9y. And then c equals 5. And then y equals negative 6. And then after this, I'm going to have to stand up and give myself some relief. I got a bad back, and that's where my relief comes in at. Okay, so c equals 5, so we're going to take out c and put in 5. In this case, y equals negative 6, so we're going to take out the y and put in negative 6. This problem's a lot similar like one we've seen already. Okay, from here we're going to do the order of operations. We'll do the multiplication first. 9 times negative 6 will be negative 54. And then we have negative 5 plus negative 54 will equal negative 59. Okay, guys, that wraps it up. Okay, you've got all the answers here for these problems. You know, you can see, I would say make close attention to the frequency, the histograms, both histograms, you know, because I set them up, but, you know, obviously I can't draw them as good as the computer can. But pay close attention to the histograms, and then pay close attention when you go back and watch the video. Um, the um, the DTR problem that involves the downstream and upstream with the boat. because it's going to involve DTR and systems of linear equations combined. That one's going to require, just some time paying attention to it and looking at it. And then also the volume problem with the water pumps. Pay close attention to that one as well. Those two are the ones that require the most steps. All right, before we close out this go-to training, we spent about 2 hours, about 30 minutes more than what we normally do. Does anybody have any questions for me before we say I do? Okay, if no questions, this session of the go-to training will be uploaded and recorded. Um, you're welcome, Sarah. And I'm probably going to end up setting it on YouTube. I don't think go-to training will be able to record and hold this one. But you'll get a copy of the link. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for today. I will see you guys on Sunday. You guys have a great week and good luck with the final.